All right, so the biggest or second biggest question that was asked through the Go Ruck World Championship 50 mile star course was a question about yoga in the middle of the race. So when you're going through these miles, everybody's like 50 miles, and I am so adamant about taking a big number and making it into a smaller number just for that mental side of it. So, let's just say I have 2 miles to go and I'm hurting, and I say I'm going to just run to as far as I could see or a specific uh, landmark of some sort, pole, light, sign, whatever. And you get to that point, it could be a tenth of a mile, it could be a quarter of a mile, whatever it is. That's your short-term goal. That's your little number you're working with to avoid constantly having this large number in your head and counting down from there. If you could just go into single digits and just keep chinking that away from the big number of 50, then I feel like personally it goes a long way. So within that time, I'm working on priorities of work, making sure I'm comfortable, I'm making sure I'm fed, hydrated. My we're looking at my time, my splits, and then thinking about what I need to do ahead of time. So at this point, I believe it was about a 13-mile route, and I'm thinking there's a lot I need to do on this route. I need to really dial in my nutrition because that was off. I was experimenting with some new things, so I need to scale back and work more on my hydration instead of electrolyte and sodium intake, along with getting a little bit of solid foods in me and taking that moment, taking off the ruck and making sure my phone was ready to be charged and having the proper gear to accommodate that. Uh, but then another thing, I call it my yoga session. So it's really funny, and everybody that's been there, uh, things we take for granted, like guardrails or rock features, or even just a patch of grass. Uh, when you're hurting in a specific way, and during obstacle races too, I just had this conversation as learn how to make obstacles in your favor in some way, or make you go faster. Don't look at it as like an obstacle that's dragging me backwards or slowing me down. Utilize that obstacle for some sort of benefit in a positive manner. For example, an obstacle race, you come across a climbing feature, a ladder, uh, 24 hours into it, 12 hours into it, maybe it becomes a piriformis stretch that really makes you feel good and loosens you up a bit, or cold water, like that recovery benefits while you're going through it. So I took this opportunity at this aid station. I said, no matter what, I'm gonna get right, and that get right mentality is feet to head, feet to the highest little bit of hair patch that I have on my head. Um, and I can quickly go down the line and start checking off the list before I approach the aid station. So again, priorities of work. I go in, I get my nutrition, dial in my point, estimate the distance, take off the ruck, make sure my battery pack is fully charged, ready to go. It's connected to my phone, and then I'm stretching out. I'm talking with the aid station people because they're miserable too from waiting for us. But man, you got to appreciate them when you see them because you haven't seen someone for hours on end. So, even at that little conversation with them and just checking in with them, seeing how they're doing actually, and asking them about how they're feeling and you know a little bit about who the competition, what they've heard. These minutes are crucial in my mind while I'm stretching, while I'm doing my yoga session, uh, to really take my mind off pain and to really uh, see where I'm at and check in with someone besides myself, right? It's never always about you. It's about those around you and specifically those who are helping you. So uh, that's why I call my yoga in the middle of the race. It's really dialing in uh, where I'm at and ultimately what I call getting right. And sometimes I've even said out loud my Alamo, but that was more towards the end when you're heading home from the last point, and you really got to just dig deep with some grit and mental fortitude and say Alamo, Alamo, Alamo. Like you fight to the death till you get there. There's no turn back. There's no surrender at this point. You will finish, and it's such a crucial moment, but also such a journey one of us can endure, in this endurance community. So uh, more on that another time. But that is my yoga in the middle of the race story.